the latest visuals of the Prime Minister and the Home Minister at the CCS meeting, Abhishek?
Well, yes, the Cabinet Committee on Security seems an expanded one. I can see National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, all the invitees there, the national security apparatus, apart from, of course, the big ones who are there in the meeting. Rhythm, we were discussing, this is an extraordinary measure because CCS is typically sort of war cabinet that takes calls on major national security issues. So I can see Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister P.K. Sinha, I can see RNAW Chief, I can see DIB Chief, I can see National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. I think they are being briefed about the series of events that led to the crash and ultimately the demise of first Chief of Defence Staff General Bipin Rawat. Of course, the ministers, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, Home Minister Amit Shah, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, also there with the Prime Minister heading the meeting at the helm. So I think, Rhythm, this is unusual that the CCS is happening. This really shows the importance that Prime Minister himself attached to General Rawat becoming the Chief of Defence Staff, to the post, to the chair, to the entire national security architecture rejig that was happening. The CDS post was part of which. So I think it's a major loss in many ways, Rhythm, the kind of understanding and chemistry CDS General Rawat had with the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, and not just because they came from the same home, they share the same home state, but then they had very similar understanding, I think, of India's strategic environment. They had very similar understanding of India's capabilities. They had very similar understanding of India's defensive and offensive postures. Remember this episode I was narrating to you about his restlessness that we should really get back to the Chinese this time, and they have asked for it. And similarly for the National Security Advisor, he's the kind of person who believes in, giving it back. General Rawat in many ways complemented it with, deployments, with the tactical thinking, and the Kailash Ranges maneuver in the ongoing standoff with Ladakh was a proof of that, was evidence of that. So I think in that sense, it's a great loss for someone who was such an integral part of the national security team to go away like that in this tragedy and mishap. It's not going to be an easy void to fill, I can tell you, viewers. Rhythm,
Yes.
And I think it's possible that there might be some announcement after the CCS on what happens next. Typically, because it's a chair which you can't leave empty for long. So I think there would have to be some deliberation on finding the next Chief of Defence Staff. I think for the time being, there is a provision that the chairman of or the Chief of the Integrated Defence Staff to the Chairman Chief of Staff's Committee, very longish designation, but essentially Chief of IDS can really officiate as CDS. My understanding in the hierarchy of the Defence Forces and the newly created Defence, the Department of Military Affairs, but then it's just sinking in. I mean, it's not even sinking in, to be honest. The kind of loss that India's national security team, India's national security architecture has really suffered.
True, absolutely. And Abhishek, I also want to go back, like you're speaking over those visuals, and to continue to be with us, to Captain Alok Bansal. Captain Bansal, we've heard the kind of details coming in about General Bipin Rawat being a true patriot, and the insights that he gave on strategic matters continues to be exceptional.
I'm not getting the audio.
Okay, I'll just get that fixed. I also want to take that to our other guests, Major General Rajan Kochar, if we can actually get a sense, because like Abhishek was explaining, this loss is going to be crucial. That CCS meeting is going to be it's there. They're going to deliberate and discuss what steps need to be taken next. But we also remember he was a true patriot. We remember the contribution to modernizing our armed forces.
Yes, Rhythm, you are absolutely right. As the army chief, he was instrumental in bringing out the concept of the infantry battle groups, IBG as it is called, because he could visualize how the future battles are going to be fought. And this IBG concept was brought out in the Army Commanders Conference, and it was implemented. So in Ladakh, it has been implemented. It was his vision and it was his brainchild. And he had the resolve that whatever he took upon himself, he ensured that saw the light of the day. So that kind of personality he had, whatever reforms he undertook when he was the chief, he ensured those reforms he completed before he relinquished that appointment. And when he took over as the CDS, the theaterization of commands was a very, very tough ask, because there were differences between the three services, and it was because of his maturity he was able to resolve these differences, and he made a promise that by the end of 2022 he will complete theaterization in all respects. And personally, I have met him on a number of occasions when I was MGOC Central Command, and he visited us. He had one wonderful habit that if he met you once, he would always address you by your first name whenever he met you next. And it was a rare quality from a chief who could remember a name of a person and address him like that. So it showed the kind of person he was, and it's a very great loss to the nation, I can say.